Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. We're going through Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 10. We're going to start with verse 38. And then we're going to go from 39 to 42. We're going to have one reading of verse 38 by Ambika, and then Yogeshwar will read it in Sanskrit and comment on it. And then we'll open it up for any comments and questions from anybody. Ambika, if you could.
I am the governing authority of the vanquishing rulers and the policy of the victory seekers, and of the secrets I am silence and knowledge of the knowers.
Thank you. Yogeshwar.
Dando damayatam nitirasmi jayeshatam maunam chaivasmi guhyanam jnanam jnanavatamaham. So dando damayatam. Of those who give like danda has different meanings, because danda could mean like a stick itself in Sanskrit, and it also means a kind of punishment, any type of punishment, like whether it is like you have to give money as punishment, or you have to, like, suffer in jail, anything. So here it is the second meaning, which means a type of punishment for something that you've done wrong. Now, damayatam, of those who give punishment, of all the types of punishment, I am danda. So in a way, let's look at punishment first. Krishna is saying that I am such. This is not ordinary in a way, like to look for the ultimate in such. We could look for the ultimate in better things, like things that help us in our life, or things that are good to us in our life. Danda is normally viewed as it's given to someone who does wrong. In this context, if we could see, there are times whereby even though I am a good person, there are times that I'll do something wrong that I may not have wanted to do in my right minds. Sometimes, anger gets the best of us, or maybe desire sometimes gets the best of us. So there are times even a person who is of utmost integrity does something he didn't want to do. And afterwards, like after doing it, he will also think, and he will reevaluate and see that I should not have done this. In that way, punishment is a good thing, in a way that don't only look at punishment as it is viewed in these days, but also look at punishment in a way that how a mother gives punishment to the child. It is sweet in a way. The mother wants the child to do the right thing, but also loves the child so much and doesn't want the child to do something wrong. So there is that element of love within, and the element of punishment as well. Like from outside, if you didn't know that she was the mother, and you'll really feel that the child should not be punished. But when you know that it is the mother who is punishing the child, you have all these elements coming together, not only punishment, but love with the punishment, like that that desire for that child to be a better person in the future. All those elements just drop in together, rather than just viewing the punishment on its own as maybe even somebody, like maybe the government or the judiciary giving us a punishment. But if you look from the view of parents, like maybe father or mother, then you get all these aspects, that how punishment is also a good thing in our lives. And even through love, somebody can punish you. Even from love, somebody can punish you. So that's the beauty of love, whereby even punishment is right in love. Even like hugging someone is right in love. Yeah. So all these aspects are right if one element is right. Nitirasmi jigishatam. So yesterday in verse 36, we saw that Jayosmi, I am the element of winning. Now here, Krishna is saying that of those who want to win, Jigishatam means not those who have already won, but those who have a desire to win. Of those who have a desire to win, I am Niti. Niti means any type of rule book or policy, how you could translate it. So of those who want to win, or any kind of tournament, game, or even in the world, anything, I am Niti. I am that policy. That Krishna realizes here that Niti, in a way, is decided by a culture or a group of people. Not necessarily that it is the nature of people. It may not be the intrinsic nature of the people, but if a group of people or a culture has come together and decided that this is the policy that everyone has to follow, then the only way that peace will come onto that culture is following the policy, following what has been mutually agreed on, rather than doing what one person thinks is right. In that way, if we all do what we think is right, then no organization will stand firm, even though it's a business or it's a culture. There are set rules that have to be followed in any culture, organization, nation, anything. So those set rules or policies, if you want to win, win by those policies, not by diverting from those policies. And that is how you win. Even following those policies is like a win. Not only winning through those policies, but following those policies, following those rules is a win. It's not apart from win. So, Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyana. And now, after giving a line about Dando Damayatamasmi, Niti Rasmi Jigeshatam, he's now bringing it to the last part now. Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyanam. Out of all the secrets, I am keeping quiet, let's say, Mauna. Mauna means quietness. In one way, we can understand that when you keep quiet, you've kept a secret. But look at another view of this, whereby, sorry about the background noise, if it's prominent.
No problem. It's hardly noticeable.
Okay,
And
fine.
it's very musical, so
So,
it works well.
yeah. So, Maunam Chaivasmi Gohyanam. One way we realize that when we want to keep a secret, we have to keep quiet. Like that is the process of keeping a secret. Now, in that way, if we understand this part of Gita in that way, then there's still something missing, because Krishna, how he's viewing Mauna is totally different. When he says Ashwatha Sarva Vrikshanam, he means that Ashwatha is a type of tree. Like the fig tree is one of the trees. Now, Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyanam, it's not that he's saying that Mauna is a way of keeping a secret, but Maun is one of the secrets. So when you view Mauna as one of the secrets, it's totally a different view, rather than seeing Mauna as a way of keeping secrets. Because when Mauna becomes one of the secrets, like, so what is Mauna? Like, what is quietness now? Because in a way, that, yeah, you've pointed out right, silence, we could say. So silence in that way is one of the secrets, not only a way of keeping secrets. And that silence is what you get within yourself when everything from outside is kept outside. And that silence is prominent within yourself. And when you hear that silence within yourself, I'm saying hear that silence because there is no any other way I can describe it. Maybe if there's a better way, but when you have that silence within yourself, like when you experience that silence within yourself, then you know that it is also a secret. Like, you can't say it out. In a way, the way it is a secret is when you say it out, it is not said out. However much you want to describe it, it is never described. It's never touched upon. It is always silent. It is always as it is. When you want to describe that experience, the words you use will break the silence. So in that way, if you view Mauna, if you view silence that happens within yourself, rather than the one that you just keep your mouth closed for keeping a secret. So this silence is more prominent here because it is also a secret that can never be told. Now you see, all the other secrets can ever be told. They can ever come into light. But this secret that happens within never comes to light. It's always kept a secret. Jnanam jnanavatamaham. So of all the people who have the knowledge, in all those people, I am the jnana. I am this value. I am this experience that they have when they are called jnanavan. And that experience is not a small experience. When that experience happens, your whole identity changes. Like you have an identity shift. If you're identifying yourself as the body or the mind right now, then you're going to have an identity shift whereby you're going to identify yourself with something different. What you are identifying yourself as right now, you'll be just experiencing it, not as yourself, but as an external thing, like we experience the world. We don't think maybe a book in front of us is part of us. It is there and we are separate from it. So the same way, we realize that all these thoughts that we have, all these desires that we have, that are part of the mind, they are not part of us. They are as separate as the book in front of us. And sometimes when we prolong the time of fulfilling a desire, because normally when we have a desire, we want to fulfill it instantly or as soon as we can. Maybe if it is possible in an hour, if it's possible even now, if we have a desire. But if we try to prolong that fulfilling the desire, not just suppressing it, but in a way that you ask the question, is the desire part of me? Is the desire part of the mind, or is the desire part of me? So continuously asking that question, or is a thought part of me? Or is it just arising from somewhere? Or is it just a reaction to the external world? What is that thought? Think about it. Contemplate on it. Even a desire that happens onto you. Or if you are in a mood right now, maybe bored, or you're feeling sleepy, or you're feeling attentive. All those types of states we are in, think about them, contemplate on them. Am I that? Or am I a bit separate from it? When that separateness comes, then you'll understand that jnana is not the thoughts that we have in our mind. Jnana is not what we get from the outside world. Rather, jnana is what has always been with us, what is part of us. And we can never separate ourselves from jnana. It is just one and the same thing with us. And when we realize that jnana is here, not anything that I can memorize or not anything that I can think about, but jnana is part of your swabhava, it's part of your atman. It's like you can't separate it from your atman. When we know that, then we know that why Krishna has chosen jnana and why Krishna has chosen Mauna. Because, Mauna can never be, as a secret, like Mauna can never be broken out to anyone. And jnana as well, there is no time you lose it. There is no time that you're void of it. Every time it's part of you, whether you know or you do not know. And when you start knowing that jnana is part of you, you'll also realize that the time I have not known that jnana was part of me, it was still part of me, even though I had not known it. So that experience also comes with it. And that is the profound part of this verse, of the conclusion of the examples, where Krishna is.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, I mean, you've done such a beautiful job of just showing what this chapter, does. Because for me personally, I've never, when I read it multiple times, I did not get the full richness of it. Because what Krishna is doing here is something really remarkable. He's taking so many different kinds of things in the world and showing you how Brahma operates within them. And that is such a beautiful way of understanding Brahma, because it is giving you so many angles from which to look at it. So, and what you've done is that you've expanded on it, provided the entire context for each of those things. So I think this sequence is my absolute favorite so far of what we have done. So the entire chapter 10 so far. So folks, now you're welcome to ask any questions or have any comments. If you're familiar with this one, even if you're not familiar, you're welcome to ask questions. Go ahead and type an exclamation mark or raise your hand in Zoom if you would like to ask questions. We're going to start with Joe, followed by Evanik. Joe.
Yes, and I second what Shrikant said about this chapter and everything that you've done for us here. So the first part is I'm actually thinking about punishment in the terms of more or less like justice, as that it's not something that you're doing it in order to restore a balance in the world. That was the first thing. So I'm thinking of punishment it's not necessarily something that is just punitive or in the sense that it's meant to hurt the person. It's meant out of love and out of promoting a certain amount of harmony. But the second part, the niti, which is the policy of what people follow, One thing that the Transcendentalist movement is similar, has some similarities, taken from the Gita, that it was kind of, there's this one aspect of it, civil disobedience, and it's kind of following your internal belief system of what you believe to be just, not what just society believes to be just. So you wouldn't necessarily follow policy. So if you didn't see policy as just, would you then essentially, how are they saying, like, essentially you follow society's laws no matter what, under all circumstances, or do you follow your internal belief system, like that you've actually kind of come to, where you're following your intuition, your center, your core, what you believe, if that makes sense?
Let me go ahead and answer that first, and then I'll hand it over to Yogeshwar. What he's trying to point to here is something far more fundamental than this political point. What he's pointing to is something, what the most equivalent thing in the Western context I've seen is the work of Piaget and games children play and rules of the game. That these are the kind of rules underlying the games. And it is the, sometimes the children, when they are learning, they don't even know the rules, but they play, they are able to do it, but it's the rules that are underlying those things. So that's the kind of thing that he's pointing to. That's what I would say. But Yogeshwar, go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing that we need to know as well is, at that time, not that each and every policy that has been laid, because even Krishna himself, he has gone against the Kauravas in this, because Kauravas were the king, like they were the kings at that time, and they were the persons who were setting the policies. Now Krishna has gone against them, going on the side of the Pandavas. Now what we need to know here is what niti means. Now, normally I would not get a better word than a rule book or a policy in English, but not just the rules that the judiciary has written or the executive parliament has written, but this niti is more, if we could say, like, based on a more fundamental thing. Like, for example, humanity, the rules of humanity, let's say. Now, there's no rule book for that, but there are some kinds of policies that are there. We will not get all the policies in the rule book, but there are some fundamental things like how to behave with a person, how to interact with another person. Those fundamental things are there, whether they're written in the rule book. Now, rule book will only talk about the extreme cases, like when you do something wrong to the person. But what niti means is, even before doing wrong to the person, you can't even behave in an appropriate way with any other person. That's what niti is.
Let me add one thing. The best way of describing it, it is the concept of justice. It is the concept of natural law that he's talking about. He's not talking about the rules of the society. He's talking about the natural laws that underlie good human interaction, a natural sense of justice that informs that. So he's looking at something profoundly natural that is found, that is the foundation of good rules of the society. So in that sense, what transcendentalists are trying to aim at is natural law, is justice. So it is not about the laws of the society. It is about these natural laws that he's pointing to. He's saying that that's what I am, because that's what I would say. Next up is the other thing I want to say is that even when in the context, you can see the connection between the two. In the context of, I think Yogeshwar did a very good job of, seeing that the mother is actually, quote unquote, punishing the child, but she's doing it with so much love, and she's doing it for a purpose of the growth of the child, for the goodness of the child. And that sense informs what she's doing with the child. And that is very different than punishment, qua punishment. It is a way of, it is aimed at growth of the child. So that aspect of it, that you're doing it out of love to correct the behavior so that the person becomes good. So that's the kind of things that he's pointing to. Next up is Evanik.
So first of all, I thought everything was great. So when you were talking about desire, right? And you're saying, either desire is a part of you or it's not a part of you and it's coming from outside influences. And my question is, how do you distinguish that? Because when I think about it, if I have a desire, I automatically think it comes from inside me, right? Like it originates from inside you. But I could also see how it could be outside influences having you desire. So, but it could it be both? Or how do you distinguish that?
Now, the thing is that I was putting it as a question that you should ask yourself. Is this desire mine or is it from outside? And certainly what you'll realize is most of the desires that we have right now of the material world, they are just coming from outside, like just a mere reaction to the outside world. If so many people like a particular type of book, then you're also going to start liking that type of book or that particular book. Or maybe if it's anything in the world, what most people go for is what you would go for. But then just stop and ask yourself, is it my desire to go for that book? Like it should be yours, not just a reaction. That's what I wanted to point at. That first ask the question, give yourself some time between your desire and fulfilling your desire. When there is that ample space in between, then you realize what you should do and what you should not do. Because what you should not do is just a reaction to the outside world. And what you should do is a complete action that comes from within yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. Now we're going to go from verse 39 all the way to verse 42. So if we could have two readings, first by Ambika and then by David. Ambika, could you read from
39 to 42.
Yes, please.
Whatever then is the seed of all the existences, that I am, O Arjuna. No being is there, moving or unmoving, which could be without me. There is no end to my divine Vibhutis, O Parantapa. This detail of my Vibhuti is declared by me simply by way of an indication. Whatever being is preeminently glorious and beautiful, or mighty and forceful, do thou know all that verily as born from a degree of my splendor? But then, what point is there in thy knowing them with many details, pervasively supporting by a single degree the whole of this universe? I am here. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you. Next up is going to be David.
Yes. O Arjuna, and whatever is the root cause of all living entities, I am that also. There is nothing which is moving or stationary in all creation that exists without me. O Arjuna, there is no limit to my transcendental majestic opulences, but all these accounts of such majestic opulences are mentioned by me only in brief. Certainly, wherever and whatever is majestic, beautiful, or magnificent, you must certainly know that all these manifestations arise from but a fraction of my glory. What necessity is there for you, O Arjuna, of such detailed knowledge and so many examples? I support this entire universal manifestation situated in but a fraction of myself.
Thank you. Thank you, David. So now Yogeshwar is going to talk about from 39 to 42, and then we're going to open it up for any kind of comments or questions on this entire chapter. Yogeshwar, please.
Yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna na tadasti vina yatsyan maya bhutam characharam. Krishna here is saying now that Yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tad aham arjuna. Krishna is pointing out that the seed of all creation, the seed of all beings that you can see is me. View me as the seed from which the whole world, which is the tree, sprouts out. Now, the tree is really prominent. The seed is never seen. It's buried in the ground. In that way, you can see the whole of creation, but never see where it comes from. And another thing that is really good about this verse, I feel, is when you view it as a tree and a seed, then you certainly realize that also in chapter 2 and the previous chapters from 2 to 6, there is this aspect of nishkam karma, that you should do action, and just for the action, not for the benefit of yourself, but you should do the action for its own value. Yeah, that action whereby there is no strings attached for yourself. And then you can also see that how the ultimate, or whatever name we can give, has given rise to this world, whereby the world is all prominent in itself. And whatever has created the world is never seen. Yet what we want is, when we do something, even a small thing in this world, rather than our work be seen, we always want ourselves to be seen. So the creation of this world, the action of creation itself, shows us how action should be done in this world. So that essence of nishkam karma is brought out in this element of the seed and the tree, or how action should be done in this world has already been shown to you by the creation of this world. Now, when we do action in a different way, whereby we want to be known rather than our action be known, then we're going against how this world itself was created. We're going against the nature of the world. So in this way, you can also see how Krishna, from the beginning, is telling you to go by your nature, whereby we ourselves have been going away from our own nature. But now, when we come back to our nature, we may feel Krishna is imposing rules we should do something. But it is not rules, like in a way. It is just pointing us back towards our nature, towards what we should be. Na tadasti vinayat Syat maya bhutam characharam. So think about this. Anything in this world, whatever it could not be without, there is something that everything could not be without. If that one thing is not there, then nothing is there. Think about something like that. Krishna is telling Arjuna, that is me. Like, if I was not there, then the world would not be there. And by this, you can see that Krishna is not meaning he himself who was born of Devaki and Vasudeva, but he's talking about that self, rather, who is the ultimate, realization of the ultimate within, rather than the one which is deluded by the ego of the self. So not the self of the ego, but the self that is natural, that which you are. And also in this body, if we talk about this body, then what we need to know is natadasti vina yatsya. What you are, like if we talk about ourselves now, what we are is something that the body could work without. Like we know we are not the hand because the body could work without the hand. So look for something that the body could not work without. That is you. That is you. So know that. And sometimes if you practice enough, you'll realize that, oh, there are some moments in time I can work without thoughts. So if you can work without thoughts, even for 1 second, then that's not you. Then certainly you start realizing these small things. Like right now you think they're small, but when you experience it, it's like the whole world has exploded in front of you. That's how big an occurrence it is. When you yourself, you realize it, rather than hearing it from someone else. Like, for example, when we hear about love, yes, we know it is there and we realize it is significant. We know all the values it has. But when it befalls you, it's totally another experience. It's like you're not separate from it. You can't identify yourself separate from love. It's like the world has exploded in front of you because you are in love now. So even such an emotion, if it can bring a totally different experience from whether you listen to it or read about it, rather than being in the experience, then just think about how big this experience must be, rather than just hearing from someone or listening about it or reading about it. When it happens to you, it is prominent. It is even more prominent than anything we can think about. So that is what we need to know. When Krishna is saying that I am, he's also telling Arjuna, look into yourself. Your whole body is there, but there is that something that it could not be without. Look for that. And that I am also. Yes.
I really like the metaphor of the seed. Aurobindo has this very nice comment on it. He says, the divine is the seed of all existences. And of that seed, they are the branches and flowers. What is in the seed of self that only they can develop in nature. So just focusing on that, because again, like Louis Sullivan, he uses the metaphor of the seed, that the seed is there in the plant and then it becomes the plant. So there is a seed in it, which is shaping the plant. And it's a way to look for the principle behind the plant. You have to look to the seed, and it flowers from there. Please go on. Yogeshwar, you're on mute. Oh, just a second. Hold on. There is a problem. Hold on. Give me just a second. Okay, go ahead, Yogeshwar.
Yeah, there. Nantosmimana divyanam vibhutinam parantapa esha tuddeshatah prokto vibhuter vistaro maya. There is no end to my vibhuti. Now, normally I would translate vibhuti into English, but right now I just want you to understand vibhuti as it is. Like we have talked about it all through the whole chapter. So vibhuti should mean something to you now, rather than an English translation to it. Because I know now, if I translate it to English, I will not be able to get the words that Krishna has used in the whole chapter here. So there is no end to my vibhuti. And that vibhuti is not normal, it's divya, it's divine. Now, the context of divine is not something superficial, like it's just there out in space. Divine means something that is always with you. Yeah, it's just like, say, for oxygen. Yeah, it is part of air and it's all around you. It is also part of you. Like you could not exist without oxygen. In that way, it's part of you. And the divineness in oxygen is, you can't know it's how physically it interacts with your cells and it gives life to your cells rather than carbon dioxide would. Like you can't really figure it out. It is there, but you can't figure it out. So that's what divya here means. Not something that's out. Yeah.
Folks, what I want you to do is to think about what vibhuti means. Okay, so one of the questions that I'm going to ask everybody after we are done with this is, what does vibhuti mean to you? Because this entire chapter is about Krishna showing his vibhutis. So try to put it in your own word when you're describing it. That will be the best way to understand. He's giving you so many examples and showing you, these are all my vibhutis, okay? And what does he mean? What does the word vibhuti mean to you? Okay, so go ahead, Yogeshwar. Sorry about the interruption.
Yeah. So what Krishna has also pointed out is things that we see in our daily lives. They're not things that are out there in space. All these are things that we just hover our eyes around. We walk past them every day. We interact with them every day, but we don't realize how significant they are. So that's what divya means here. Like divya is that which is just in front of you, but it just goes unnoticed. And it's the same thing with jnana that I had just talked about just a few minutes ago. That's how divya jnana is as well. You'll realize that it has always been in front of you. You just didn't realize that it was there. Like you didn't realize the significance it has. That's what divya vibhuti means. And esha tuddeshata prokto vibhuter vistaro maya. Like there is great detail to my vibhuti, great detail, immense. Like we can't even talk about it through words in that way. And what I have said, uddeshata, like I have just said it specifically for you. And that pronounces how the whole chapter has been laid out just for Arjuna. Because at the start of the chapter, if we realize that Arjuna is asking for something, that he knows that Krishna is everywhere, Krishna is the ultimate, but at the beginning of the chapter, certainly Arjuna had pointed out that how can I realize you? How can I know you in everything? So Krishna is pointing out here that I have talked about it in the way that you can know me. And uddesha, like when we say uddesha, it means with reason, like with the reason that you wanted to know me, I have unfolded myself out to you so that you can know me fully. And the great detail of my Vibhuti can never be known. It's always so vast. And Krishna here is also pointing out another point, that even things that I have not mentioned here are part of my Vibhuti. So there is also like a great chance, because this is just a small chapter, if you realize how great Vibhuti is. You can realize Vibhuti in the most fundamental thing, like something that you come across every day, even though it's not listed in the Gita. If you realize its importance, its significance in your life, if you realize its Vibhuti, how it relates to the ultimate, then you know this is the Vibhuti of Krishna. So anything and everything that we come across in our daily lives is part of Vibhuti. Nothing is left out. Everything that you see in the manifest is a way the unmanifest is sprouting out for you to know. That is what Vibhuti means here. Yad yad vibhuti matsatvam shrimadurjitameva va tattadeva vagachatvam mama tejonsha sambhavam. So whatever, like yad yad. So you will realize that in Sanskrit, this is prominent. Like when you have yad yad, then in the next you have tat tat. So in yad yad, Krishna is saying whatever, yeah, like whatever vibhuti you see, mat sattva, all that is from me, all that is coming out from it, sprouting from me. So what type of vibhutis will those be? Shrimad. It will be filled with all this Aishwarya. It will be filled with all this enormous, like, you know, when you see it, you will not stay on the ground. You'll be like lifted from the ground. You'll feel, I've realized something out of this world. In that way, it is filled with Aishwarya. It's filled with that immense joy that you feel. And urjitam evava. It's also filled with this subtle light within itself. There's that radiance that it has. And this is all when you realize a vibhuti on yourself. Like, you know, sometimes we need to realize the vibhuti of the ultimate according to our own swabhava, according to how we are. So Krishna is pointing out, maybe even though you realize something that I've not mentioned in this chapter, then you'll realize it like this. Like these are the experiences you will have when you realize a vibhuti on your own. When you realize something divine in that sense, these are the experiences that you will have. And something divine will not be out in space. It will be here, right now. And it will be something that you have been looking at day in, day out. That will be the vibhuti. Tatta deva vagachatvam Mama tejonsha sambhavam. So all that, know it, that it is from Teja Ansha. So it is from me, yes, that you know. But it is from a minute part of me. So Krishna is also saying how great the Vibhuti is, and he's also pointing out how great the unmanifest is in relation to what you have realized. What you realize, you'll realize it as great. But again, think towards the ultimate, towards the unmanifest. What you have realized in the manifest is just a small spark. It's like the least of it. There is something great behind the curtains, which is the unmanifest. So it's just like Tejoansha Sambhava. It's like, from the curtains, there's this small rays that pass through the curtains. And then you feel like it has lit the room up, like the whole room is lit. But Krishna is saying still, like, it's just from one spark of me. So realize the whole source of light behind the curtain. Then you realize what I am, what the ultimate is. So know that Vibhuti is important. It is really important, because if you're only fond of darkness, you'll never know what light is. So light is that small ray that is coming through the curtains. And now, since you've realized that small ray that is coming through the curtains, then go behind the curtains, go past the curtains, and you'll realize that there is a larger source of light behind the curtains. And that is me. Athava bahunetena kim jnatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam ekanshena sthito jagat. Now, when even in commentaries, in Sanskrit commentaries, when the commentators have realized that they've written a lot, and now, even though I write more, you'll not get any grasp, you'll not get any more grasp of this. They say, Kim Bahuna, like, what to say more now? I've already described everything I can using pen and paper or using the words I could. Even though I describe it more, you'll not be able to grasp it. So let me move on to something else. Yeah? So that's what Krishna here is saying. If you switch the words, you'll see Bahuna, Etena, Kim. So it's like Kim Bahuna. So Krishna is saying the same words here. Like Kim Bahuna, like, why should I say more now? Even though I say more, you'll not be able to grasp it now. Because even we know that after a long lecture, there are those times where we feel now we're not able to grasp those nitty-gritties. We need larger facts rather than the nitty-gritties of the details now. That's when we'll be able to grasp it. Now, what Krishna here is also pointing out to is this is something that cannot be grasped through words only. I have said the words, but now take some time to realize the Vibhuti on your own, to realize what it means on your own, and to experience it to the fullest on your own. And when you do it on your own, when it is your experience, you will know that this is Vibhuti. This is what unmanifest is showing through the manifest. There is a time to take in knowledge from outside, like that knowledge that we know normally, and there is a time to contemplate on it. There is a time to, go around what you've grasped from outside and make it your own. And that time when you realize that what is coming from its inside is more prominent. That's what Krishna wants for Arjuna. Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekanshena sthito jagat. I am in this whole world. Vishtabhyaham. I am in this whole world. But Krishna is telling Arjuna that realize I am holding this world like only by ekanshena, like only by, you know, the smallest part of me. Like even the smallest part of me is able to hold this whole world into place. That's how great the ultimate is. That is how minute the manifest is in front of the unmanifest. Like the unmanifest is everywhere, we know. Even in the manifest, the unmanifest is there. It's showing itself. But in relation to the unmanifest, you certainly realize that the manifest is just a small spark. It's just a small thing held by the unmanifest. And when you go beyond is when you'll realize the greatness.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. I want to add the context in two ways. One is I want to read the final verse and add and read out Sri Aurobindo's commentary on the first part. The verse 42 says, but what need is there of a multitude of details for this knowledge, O Arjuna? Take it thus. So he explains, you know, what is Krishna trying to do? Because there are so many Vibhutis, infinite Vibhutis, and he's talking about a few of them. All classes, this is Sri Aurobindo explaining, all classes, general species, individuals are Vibhutis of the one. But since it is through power in his becoming that he is apparent to us, he is especially apparent in whatever is of a preeminent value or seems to act with a powerful and preeminent force. And therefore, in each kind of being, we can see him most in those in whom the power of nature of that kind reaches its highest, its leading, its most effectively self-revealing manifestation. These are, in a special sense, Vibhutis. Yet, the highest power and manifestation is only very partial revelation of the infinite. Even the whole universe is informed by only one degree of his greatness, illumined by one ray of his splendor, glorious with a faint hint of his delight and beauty. This is in the sum of the gist of the enumeration, the result we carry away from it, the heart of its meaning. Now, what I want to do is I want to now read some commentary by Naneshwar at the end of this adhyaya, because Naneshwar does something really beautiful. I simply love Naneshwar about how he deals with these adhyayas. He's saying, okay, what is now Arjuna's reaction? Because Gita doesn't talk about Arjuna's reaction to this, okay? So what Naneshwar is doing is he's now describing Arjuna's reaction to what Krishna has just said to him. He says, Arjun mane bhagwantasi, so Arjun says to Krishna, tu rahasya sangitile amasi, you've told me a great secret. Mani tyagata tya bhedasi prapti tuji, that by eschewing, by giving up all false distinctions, we acquire you. Deva tuze samora ashne, the fact that you are right here in front of me. Mag mala nalage kahi karane, because you're right there in front of me, I really don't need to do anything. Suryala ka lage andhar ghalavane devakadi. Does the sun need to work in order to illuminate what is right in front of him? Tuje swarupam te mani chintata. As I contemplate your nature, ni antari tujasi ekatva pavata, and achieving oneness with you in my soul. Sampurna zate ti bhedata. All duality just melts away. Antar bahya, inside and outside. Bhagwanta tu samora asata. O Krishna, when you are in front of me, kaise rahila ti bhedata. How can this duality even exist? Dvaitachiti varta nahi antari. There is no trace of this duality in my consciousness. Maga Arjunachiya bola, Bhagwanta Santosha Paula. Listening to Arjun saying this, Krishna was delighted. Ani alingana deun manala ragau nako. He embraced him and said, please don't be angry with me. Karuna Vibhuti che varna. Now he's explaining himself, what he has done. Karuna Vibhuti che varna, by describing the Vibhutis. Mi tapasale tuje antakarna. I was testing your understanding and your consciousness. Tava antari bhedachi sthana nahi Arjuna. There is no duality within your being. Arjuna tu bhagyavanam. Arjun, you are indeed fortunate. Tujha tya punyai karana. Because of your goodness. Prakatale gahana brahmanyana tujhe thai. That this knowledge of Brahma, which is very deep, has illumined, has risen within your soul. Arjuna Atmarupi Pavala. So that's what he's saying. So what he's saying is that what I have done is that I was just describing these vibhutis to you at a surface level to see if you, through all of this, could get an idea of what manifestation of unmanifest is like. Because I've just described few things to you of this manifestation, because I can describe only few things, because the manifestations are infinite. Everything is a manifestation. I've described them in brief to you in several different ways, just to see if you're able to see the unmanifest in the manifest. All right, so now I'm going to open it up for any comments. So first question for anybody who wants to answer it. What do you understand by vibhutis? Go ahead and type an exclamation mark if you'd like to answer. I mean, the best way, okay, I shouldn't say anything. I should have asked a question. David.
Yeah, I mean, to me, vibhutis seem to be either manifestations of Brahma or aspects of Brahma.
Very good, very good. I think that's very good. All right, so now I'm going to open it up for any questions that anybody has or any comments. Now, we're looking at this entire chapter as a whole. You can talk about these verses, or you can talk about any aspect of the chapter. What did you think of the chapter? What did you get from it? What did it do for you? Joe, you had raised your hand earlier.
Yeah, it was verse 39. I actually forget what that was exactly
That's fine.
pertaining to, but
That's fine. What did you get from this chapter? What did you think of the chapter?
I mean, I thought the chapter was as deep because we went as deep on the verses. It kind of gives you an idea of just how deep each one of these verses is, you know, the idea of metaphors and how powerful they are, and actually walking through them. I think you get an understanding, a deeper understanding of what it means to be divine. And really where you see God in every aspect of life, in everything, that in our breath, in our thinking, and that Krishna is there in everything. You get a better understanding of also of how to detach from things procedurally, actually, with some more in-depth examples. And I get a feeling as well as how to manage our desires as well, and essentially what desires are actually taking us away from our center. And I think overall that you have a better understanding of what the center actually means, as opposed to, you know, I had an understanding of, you know, that what was bringing me closer to the center, and you have the idea of what is good. But this is actually the depth and the meaning of, with examples of what it means to really discover the God for you, and to be liberated, to truly be liberated from society's norms and everything, that you're able to see past all externals, and understand yourself, and engage with your ego in a very healthy way, and understanding yourself. So that's what this chapter has, but we've just gone into such depth in this particular chapter that there are specific examples that you know, we can come back to. I mean, even just last night.
Sure. So on the examples, let me interrupt you for a second. I want to comment on several things you said, and I'll come back to you for example. So you said several things, and I want to highlight some of them. First one is, I think, and I was actually astonished by the chapter, you know, of how much we got from the chapter in these meetups. The first thing is to see kind of the manifestation of the center in the periphery. So seeing how actually the seed becomes the tree in so many different contexts. So seeing kind of this movement from the center outward, of seeing the universal principle operating in so many different things. I mean, it's just an incredibly rich presentation. Second thing is this, another way of putting it is this integration of inner and outer. You know, he's talking about outer things, and he's showing you the inner in that. So this tight integration of, it's not an inner versus outer, it is inner being expressed as outer, and the outer kind of then flowing back to the inner. I thought that, you know, thanks to Yogeshwar, And thanks to the structure of the chapter itself, this pulled in a lot of the Indian context. So the context of the culture was pulled in amazingly well at so many different levels. You know, the stories of Prahlad describing, you know, different, like, you know, Agni as one of the, what was Agni as was an example of, Yogeshwar? Sorry, you're on mute. Oh, go ahead. But
I
anyways,
forgot.
no, sorry,
Anyways, yeah.
sorry. But what I'm saying is that it actually pulled in so much of the Indian cultural context, and that is essential to understanding this work. So those are the things that really stood out for me. So we'll go to Evanik, Ambika, and then come back to Joe. Evanik, what did you get?
I think the biggest thing I got from this whole chapter is the concept of being present and what that truly means. I think being present in the moment, and I think I don't know if the term watching your thoughts is appropriate, but I think looking at your thoughts and comparing them to what is in reality. Because what I've noticed is that a lot of what you're thinking isn't what's happening. It's just your thoughts about what's happening, and being able to notice that. I think there is a true freedom in noticing what's going on and making a choice on how to react. I think the choice is key. Like, are you going to look at what's happening and choose to go inward and go towards your center? Or are you just going to react to what's happening in the periphery? And I think that's key, because it's what's inside of you that counts, and it's what's coming from the center. And even with the desire piece of it, is like, is it what I'm desiring? Is it because society is it because of what society expects from us? Is it something that society is teaching us, or is it something that we truly desire? And for me, taking a look at what I desire and why I desire it, just it just has helped me gain clarity about what I want to do with my life, and what direction I want to go and why. And so when I think of these things, I think of, also, like, how do you take wise advice and but not let people in a sense control you, even if they mean well, even if they don't mean to control you. Just real practical example. I'm on the family reunion committee for my family, and we are all strong-headed people, and so planning this reunion has been like pulling teeth, and getting people together. And I just had to, at a point, for my own peace and for my own sanity, just let it all go and just be like, you know what, I'm just here to help. If the committee decides to go against what I want, that's fine. But I think too, but also understanding that, like, seeing what, even if I did take action, would that be helpful? Would that further the conversation? Would it make it better? And what I've learned is that 9 times out of 10, no, it's just going to add to the argument. And what do I really want? And that's how I got to the core of what I really want is peace. And it's not peace that means that nothing happens or nothing happens in the periphery. It's that peace that they always say, and they always say surpasses human understanding. It's like, no matter what is going on around you, what are you going to do at your core? Like, are you going to be at peace? Is this action going to bring you peace? is it going to be helpful? If it's not, then you got to just kind of let it go. And for me, being a strong-minded and strong-willed person, former debate coach, I'm used to winning. And so to sit back and be like, I don't have to win every battle. I can just go with the flow, has created a piece in me. So that's what I got out of this chapter.
Wonderful.
On a practical note.
Thank you. Thank you, Evanik. I'm going to comment on 3 points that you made. First was about being present. We talked about the concept a little bit yesterday. And this is a very large concept. I mean, to put it in a much broader way, the Indian thought is metaphysical. It focuses on what is. The Western thought is more about becoming and about more kind of specifically about transforming the outer is the preoccupation. Whereas the Indian thought is saying that you have to start with what is. And being present is a way of accepting that you are conscious, and you are conscious only in the present. And that is something that is true, something that is fundamental. And it is from that everything comes. The other things are derived from it. So it is going back to the root. And that is what being present is about. So that's one thing. The second point you made was about making a distinction between when you're reacting versus acting from the center. That is again a huge distinction, because we are always reacting to things that are going on. We are reacting to other people. We are also reacting to our own habits, our own thoughts, and never getting to the center and looking at it from that perspective. So reacting versus acting from the center, that's the second one. And third one is this concept of sthita prajna that you kind of talked about implicitly, that can you be in the middle of all of this with everything going on around, with your center being peaceful and calm and aware of what is going on, and maintain that peace at the core of your being and your consciousness fully active without, no matter whatever is going on around you. So that achievement, that which, Gita talked about in chapter 2. So those are the 3 things that I got from what you said. So thank you so much. Now let's go next to Ambika, followed by Nova, and then Joe. Ambika.
So some things I say might be repetitive, but my experience of what you were speaking about when you were talking about Vibhuti, it just feels like it is the all-pervading substance and not substance. It felt like a process, dynamic. It seems like it was all the works and yagyas which become ash. So it is the effect of all that you do. And the burning, so you become cleansed, and this is the process. And therefore, this is presence. You are the presence, living, dynamic, continually transforming to being it. It felt like also being or having superhuman powers, all of it. So it is burning through to become ash and nothing, and then you become the fragrance. So it is then a singular life lived through all experiences and coming out illumined and nothing. And this is how I was feeling Yogeshwar's explanation of Vibhuti in so many different aspects, that it already, it's the Atma and the Brahman, but as a human being, this is what it, as a human manifestation and a sentient manifestation, this is how I felt it.
Thank you, Ambika. Next up is Nova. Nova, go ahead.
Yes, hello, thank you. Wow, it really moved me, actually. It was very romantic in a way, where I felt that what he was really saying was he was really connecting to not only himself as an individual, but to everything surrounding him, and because it is him. And I was having a 5-hour conversation, as I was telling you yesterday, where, just having this connection with others and another person, and when you have that, when you just come together and it just flows, and it's so natural because it is the center that's coming out and expressing itself, and it isn't being controlled by emotions or things that maybe society have said that we should follow. And I appreciate the clarification, because sometimes I don't feel that, or at least in my experience as a child, I didn't feel that the parent was necessarily always right about things. And and it was more about like what they felt was better for me or better for society. And I feel like that's kind of happening today in society, is where if we aren't participating as a whole, and that we're not a part of society anymore. And I feel like what he was saying was just to let go of all of that, but to act in a way to where we are becoming more into being and our true authentic selves. And because of that, we're able to love like that. There was so much love coming through those words. Like I almost was just like, oh, I just wanted to cry, because it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I mean, I've I always come back to the one thing that Krishna says to Arjuna, and it's just this one clip that has caught me over and over again. And he just says, you must act, but you can't be attached to it no matter what. Just do it, And I was having this conversation just the other day, like, well, if it's going to already happen, do we really need to act, or can I just be, and it will still act because I'm being in that action, even though I'm not even really moving it. But I'm moving it with my heart. It's not a physical thing. It's more of a, an intention of seeing a better, brighter future. And I know that there are people in this world that are warriors, and then there's the Brahmins, and then whatever. And I get it. But at the same time, it's like, what happens if we all just stopped, and really looked at each other? And could we really forgive and actually just love one another? And I'm kind of struggling with this right now because of this conversation that I had yesterday.
Thank you. Let's get other people. I want to get as many voices on the table. Thank you very much. Great observations. And I think you are absolutely right that there is actually so much love here. Like what he's talking about, he's saying that this is Krishna being expressed fully in everything and in people. And that kind of natural expression is immensely beautiful. Like, for example, Gnaneshwar in his commentary actually captures this sense of the beauty and love and goodness and truth, which kind of shines through almost every word here. So so thank you for capturing it, and Ambika also for capturing it in your own way, because what happens is that there is intellectual things, but there is a concomitant emotion, and that's a very deep, serene, loving emotion that is there, that permeates all of Bhagavad Gita here. Next up is going to be Jyoti, followed by Jyoti.
Yeah, I think this chapter 10 was very profound. it touched almost everything. Like Shrikant, you said about the Hindu in Indian culture, it brought everything together. It gave me a lot of awareness, like which was already there, but it was like made it very prominent in me. Yesterday, I was going to fall. I was going to have a very big fall. And just last second before my fall, I had a crate in my left hand and the handle came to my rescue. And at once I felt there was a divine touch here. I got a grace period from God. And that's what it was. That's what I have learned in chapter 10. And then when I got to the parking lot, my car was keyed. And I said, okay, I did not drive my car for 3 years. I've been walking and taking the buses and what have you. And now it's my time to pay for it. And I just took it that way, very lightly. And I think the whole unmanifest is manifesting itself around me. In the morning, I will see the colors of the rainbow. I will go out and I'll see the waves of the water. And I feel that I'm trying to reach Brahma. And but what am I trying to reach? He is there. Brahma is already there around me. And it gives me a very good feeling of satisfaction. And I said, yeah, I think Yogeshwar had said that what good is the sun if it is not shining, if it's not giving light? And that really touches me. Because really speaking, what am I praying for in the morning? Had it not been for the light that the sun was given, I would have never looked at the sun. I would have never looked at the waves in the water. So that is Brahma. That's what I am praying for. The Brahma is right there. So really speaking, it is all awareness. The chapter 10th is awareness, and it has brought everything together for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jyoti. And this is a point that Yogeshwar made really well. And that is that this is not some unusual thing. This is actual life around you. This is your life. And it's just that we are mostly sleepwalking through our lives, reacting to things with our kind of preset thoughts, emotions, habits. And this is all about being aware of what is. And when you are aware of something very simple, like a leaf, like a sunset, like another person, actually, it's quite magnificent. And that is what is being shown here. So what he's saying, what Krishna is saying, is that all of these are my Vibhutis. These are all my manifestations, and appreciate them. Thank you, Jyoti. Joe, thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm enjoying the comments more than my own. You know, what this is actually kind of brought together is two things. It's the mind, body, and spirit, right? That part of it is really important as far as how do you transform fully into understanding yourself. But this is really one of the things that, and it's kind of struck me throughout the Gita, and is that it allows you to, by not reacting to externals, you start to understand and be able to love yourself in that process. And there's something very, very deep to that. When you're not just reacting to society or to what's going on around you, then you can really look internally and you can love yourself. And that truly allows you to love everyone else. And that is what is really, you're going in to go out, to break out.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I want to build on what you're saying, because what happens is that we have so many dead things in us, kind of dead emotions, kind of which are almost completely reactive from our past, dead thoughts and dead habits. And we interface habitually with the world with that. Lot of what Gita is saying is that give up those things, because those things are in the periphery. These are the forms which were originally created through functions, but those are now dead forms. Those are no longer serving you. They are not serving the core of your being, the function of your Atma. And when you let go of that, it seems initially as, oh, you're letting go, you're losing things. But what that does, that subtraction, is that it allows the function to grow again. Because otherwise it is being completely dominated by all these reactive things, and it has no place to grow. This is like you're removing all the dead wood so that the seed can flower. And go ahead.
And there are multiple paths to getting there. That's the thing, is that you start to realize as well, there's multiple ways to get to the center. And it's actually, this complements my Stoicism. That it really does, in a very deep way, and that how it complements virtue, how it complements not only thinking one way, but just I'm not where I need to be personally. This is just, but this is a path. This is a path on how to get there. And it's also a path that really does help you understand the importance of character in that process as well, your internal character, to move inward, like why your character is so important to you, why you act a certain way. But this also gives you a process on how to like see God and everything, and so that you see the reason why maintaining your character is so important, and it really does complement Stoicism in so many different ways. There are, well, I can go over the verses.
Let me go ahead and comment on what you said, then you can continue. And folks, if anybody else would like to join in about talking about what they have been learning from this entire chapter 10 or Gita so far, we've done about 36 different episodes so far. And so one point I want to build on what Joe said, which is very fundamental, is that, and Evanik has made this point several times, is that only when you kind of have this seed growing in you, then you can relate to other people. And it is almost inevitable that when you are acting from your center, you can interact with other people's center. Like if you do not even know your center, if you are disowned your center, if you are all about periphery, you have no way of actually making an authentic connection with another human being. It's by having a center. You always have a center, but you're never standing there. You're running all over the place. But by standing in the center, that gives you an authentic place, because the moment you do that, you see the other person and you see their center, and you are able to relate to them with that as the solid foundation for the interaction. And when that happens, the differences between you, they dissolve relatively. Those are no longer important. Those become secondary. And the primary thing is the commonality that you have. And that sets, I mean, that's the namaste principle, saying the God in me greets the God in you. Because the moment you say that, the world looks very different. People look very different to you. Suddenly, all kind of the surf, because this thing about using dead wood of thoughts, emotions, and actions in dealing with your life, well, you do that when you're interacting with people. You're actually just trading, you're trading these things instead of actually connecting with the person. And moment one person is open to it, you will find that the other person who would normally not be doing that is suddenly more open to it. So it allows, and it is tremendously powerful experience for both people. It's not just you that benefit from it, the other person benefits. So you basically benefit each other just by saying namaste, of saying that I greet the God in you, I greet the center in you. Thank you, Joe. Let me go ahead with Marco, followed by Jyoti. Folks would appreciate any comments. Marco, go ahead.
Just a question, like, so when you, like when a person is learning, so is like a person's curiosity, is that the unmanifested? That's it.
Very good question. Very good question. So there are a couple of things. It's firstly the curiosity. So let me take it to the highest level. The highest level would be your curiosity about who you are. So this is a question. It's like, no, who am I? Who am I? And it's like, you will have an answer. Okay, are these thoughts me? Are these emotions me? The knowledge that Gita is talking about is fundamentally the knowledge of yourself as a starting point to curiosity about the world. So it is curiosity about the world, but it's fundamentally curiosity. It's curiosity about the world as a whole. And the world is basically the Brahma, that is the universal principle, manifesting itself in all these myriad vibhutis or manifestations or expressions. There are kinds of curiosity. There are curiosity which are about actually paying attention to different things in order to distract yourself. Like, let's say watching TV. That's a very passive kind of thing. Yes, something is going on, but actually you're occupying your consciousness so that it is not focused on something which is deeper, which is more meaningful. So there is kind of curiosity about peripheral things. A deeper curiosity is kind of asking why, and going towards kind of fundamental universal principles. And mostly Gita is talking about doing that about yourself, about the nature of the universe itself. And that kind of curiosity is what Gita regards as sacred. It is all about, and in Gita terms, that curiosity about your own being, your own Atma, is the same as the curiosity about the Brahma, the nature of the universe. Because that's like the most deepest and most powerful curiosity. At the same time, curiosity about any particular thing can also be that. It could be that you're looking at a leaf, but if you can see Brahma in the leaf, you are focused on the Brahma at the same time. If you're looking at it in order to distract yourself from other things, then it has a very different motive. And it is more peripheral, more about attachment, more about taking away from the center. So that's what I would say. Marco, I don't know whether that has answered your question or not. What do you think?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Marco. Next up is Jyoti, followed by Joe. Jyoti.
Well, Shrikant, you covered quite a bit of what I was going to say. I was it had a very soothing effect on me about Atma, Paramatma, and the reincarnation. And the other thing that I was going to mention was, and maybe I had mentioned before, your whole diagram about the center and peripheral, that really made me more aware than anything else about the life processes and about the goodness and about the, just irrelevant things that keep coming in your life, and you should push them in the periphery. And just that diagram is so visual, and it's right in front of you when you are thinking about something, and then you say, no, I have to fill up my center with goodness and push anything away. And just the other day, my daughter said about karma, that she's always performing good karma, but nothing is coming back to her. And I explained to her the whole concept of the center and periphery. And she was so humbled, like, okay, mom, that really does make sense. Wow. That you are filling up your center and you don't have to worry about other people reciprocating, because that is their karma. It doesn't concern you. So she was like, okay, it made her sense to her. So the diagram to me was, it will stay with me now. All my life it will stay. We'll finish Gita here, and then the diagram will stay. And the pointing your finger up there to Brahma, your mind. And so when I do my mantras, I have a visual again that I'm pointing up. The Om is pointing up, going to Brahma. So I've learned very, very mind-soothing, soul-soothing things in chapter 10. And I thank you, Yogeshwar and Shrikant, for bringing it all to synchronizing it all together for us. Thank you.
Jyoti, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm just delighted, when Yasuhiko saw my diagram, he says, well, this diagram, actually, you can explain this to a 12-year-old, and you can explain, and somebody who's really, really deep into Gita can also get value from it. But I was stunned when Rupali said that she's using it in her class, because she teaches with, that in her school with like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, just the idea of center and periphery. It is so deep and so simple. And so I absolutely. Let's see. Welcome back, Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, I know you need to leave soon. Would you like to make any comments?
No, actually, I just came to listen in.
Okay.
I realized that the work I had to do was not now going to start up to 9 today. Sure. Just for today, it's not going to start up to 9. So
sure,
I was free. I just felt like tuning in.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome back, Yogeshwar. Thank you. Next up is going to be, what we are doing is that we are talking about what we have got from chapter 10 and the entire, Bhagavad Gita discussions. So it's going to be Joe followed by Evanique. Joe.
Yeah, I'll be brief. One of the things that I had not mentioned, and which was one of them, is I've finally got a better understanding through Brahma, Aristotelian's 4 causes. Mm-hmm. That the formal cause and the final cause what that actually means, and then where the modern world is much better with the material and the efficient, and how this is fully integrated, how Brahma is fully integrated in thinking about the universal principle, the universe itself, and seeing it how everything is one. Even in Aquinas, I really didn't see it as clear as I did in Brahma.
Yeah, no, that's
And part of your diagram was part of that. Actually, it was a very, very big part of it. And I've been able to really think about that in great detail. I can't believe I didn't mention that sooner.
Thank you. No, absolutely. Look, for example, consider this entire chapter 10.
So you surpassed Aquinas.
No.
I was just about to say, if you
No,
made it more clear, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I knew that would make you blush a little bit. All right.
No, I'm not blushing. I'm just saying, no, you're just wrong, Joe. So next, what I want to say is that if you look at formal cause, right, this entire chapter 10 is about how formal causes work. This is like the principle. It is showing you principle and its manifestations of being able to go back and forth between manifestations and the unmanifested principles behind that. That is what the formal cause is trying to get at. And what the modern world does is that they just look at periphery and they just look at what is bouncing against what. And they don't go at this deep level at all to see from which everything is proceeding. That they consider it to be, they use derogatory terms like, oh, that is metaphysical. That's how they would put it. So, but that's exactly the point. That Gita does that. The other thing that the Gita does really well, and I'm so amazed at it, is that it is so integrated. This kind of integration between inner and the outer, integration between thought, action, and emotion. So many different ways in which these things go together. And they go very naturally. The entire description goes very naturally and beautifully, to and fro, showing so many different variations, so many different individual differences in how people understand these things and use these things. How do these things operate in them, and the options that are there. It just goes so effortlessly across these integrations. And chapter 10 does a fantastic job of doing that. Excellent. Let's go with Brian, followed by Ebony. Brian, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I thought, first of all these comments have really been wonderful. I've just been listening and enjoying it and benefiting tremendously. But the one, I had an experience that nobody else has really mentioned. So I want to mention that as we've gone through, especially this chapter 10, I've even had bodily reactions to some of the insights. And I felt like they were striking me or doing something to different parts of my body. Like, I can even tell you, like right here, in my chest, in my stomach, and in my lower bowels. I remember these things, so the phenomena so well. I just wanted to share that. That's, I think it really is a transformational experience.
No, that's a great point. And actually that, Gita and Indian thought has this entire idea of chakras, which is very powerful idea. And that's, the thing is that like in the Western context, all of these things are understood separately from the body. These are all kind of thoughts that you think about outside. But when you, for example, are concentrating, really concentrating on something, so you can feel something here. Like when you are kind of, your heart is fully engaged, you feel something here in your chest. When you are kind of letting, kind of expressing things in your body, you have kind of the root of your spine kind of fully engaged. When it is about kind of your reactions, there is something happening in your stomach. I mean, and there is a old tradition to it. Like you can see it in the words that developed over time in different languages, like thumos, right? Thumos, which is courage, is actually rising of the blood. So it was originally blood, and then it got converted into courage. So there is linguistic things, there is bodily things, and it is experienced as that. Evanik, let me do one thing. Ambika usually has things to say about these things. So let me go to Ambika first and then to you. Ambika, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to, I mean, I just love what you said, because I was also thinking when I said what I did, that within that whole space of beauty is also a wonder of becoming the presence. And it goes back and forth because it's so dynamic. And when you have that awareness, there is no illness. When you have that awareness, because everything can shift inside and you could will it be that way. So there is no need for illness at all of any kind. And that's why, you know, we need to be shifting from the awareness that is currently present in all our societies, with all the limitations and all of that stuff. So to come to that comes to wholeness, which is also complete wellness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I mean, this connection of mind and body, the Chinese thought also has done great work on this, but the Indian thought has very deep ideas about this, like the way in which, and it is, I don't know where to begin, because it's a very large field. It's like the thoughts are expressed in the body, they impact other people. You know, people look a certain way, you can actually, that's what, you know, it's like there are these phenomena that are happening. Like you can say, oh, this is a good person. And you might have just seen them like that. And you would say, oh, this is a good person. And you can get it like that because it is there, because there is this integration that is there between who they are, what they are thinking, what their emotions are, how their body is expressing it. There is, and it's very much about health, and it is very much about making peace with the world. Like when you're reacting to the world, you're continuously trying, you're basically denying the core of your being. And you kind of, it's like you're actually a jigsaw puzzle of pieces that you have taken from outside and trying to fit them in somehow and appearing to be something. This is all the movement primarily is inside out in this philosophy. Thank you. Next up is going to be Evanik. Evanik, thank you for your patience.
No, no problem at all. I've been getting, I've been enjoying the comments. So the first thing I want to talk about is awareness. And it was something you had said a while ago, Shurkan, but it's like, why are you doing it? Like, you know, why do you want this desire? It's an awareness. And Brian's right. It's in your body, it's in your mind, and it's in your emotions, right? Like it's all reading all of that and being present to all of that before you take any action. And then what occurred to me as I was thinking about that was the concept of Wu Wei, right? It's I'm going to say it wrong, but it's like action, inaction, inaction. And the way I think about it now, after listening, is like if there is action to take, like if you're looking at a problem or you're just looking at a situation that is happening, I think the first thing I ask myself now is there any action to take, right? What action can I take? And then after I look at that, then I just deal with the emotion of that. And then I kind of let it go because there's nothing else to do. And I think what a lot of people do, and I used to do it a lot too, is the act of avoidance. And avoiding a situation just makes it 10 times worse. So one of the things that the Gita meetups have helped me with is just taking action right there in the moment, doing what needs to be done in the moment, and then dealing with the impact later. For me emotionally, for me physically, and just kind of like dealing with the emotion of it and not stuffing it or anything like that, but just kind of like living with it after that. Like after I've taken the action, after I've done what there is to do, just be with it. Like I think it was Ambika that said, or Joyti, I can't remember which one, but it was like you just be with it after that, right? And then speaking of Joyti, if I think the point of focusing on Brahma is beautiful, right? So if like you're saying, are these desires going to bring me closer to the center? And what is the goal? The goal is to look up to Brahma. That's where you're trying to reach, right? And you're trying to also reach your Atma. So really focusing on that is the key. And I think this is just my thought, is that once you focus on it, your desires will conform to that. Your wants, your needs will go towards that if that's where you're focused on. And I think that was so key when Jyoti said it, is that the focus, and when she was talking to her daughter, I love that conversation. It was, if you are focused on the Brahma, you're not worried about everybody else. You're not worried about what other people are doing or what other people are getting or not getting, or their karma. You're just focused on you and your relationship. And it's so true. And I think it's the key in all different religions that we've been studying, the Gita, the Bible, and the Tao Te Ching. Focusing on the Brahma, or focusing on the Atma, or focusing on God, or focusing on the Tao is the goal. And there's many different paths towards it. And you do the one that's best for you, but that should be your focus. It's not about even doing it right, or did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? And I fall into that a lot. But it's like, where am I focused? And so I just thought that was just the most, now I won't say, it was one of the best things I've heard and the Gita meetups. And I'm not like taking away from anybody else, by the way, but that was like one of the key things that just really helped me put it into focus. And something Ambika said too, and I'll stop after this, is when she was talking about the mind and the body and the link between sickness and wellness and the mind-body connection. I agree with that. Like again, if your focus is on Brahma, you're going to do things, you're going to desire things that go towards you. You're going to desire health. You're going to desire movement. You're going to desire being healthy in your mind, body, and soul. And I think the diagrams that you did, Shrikant, really do focus on that. So thank you, Yogeshwar. Thank you, everybody here. I'm done.
Thank you, Evanik. That was just wonderful. I want to respond by building on one more theme here. Joe talked about the connection with Stoicism, and I want to build that up by starting with the Serenity Prayer, because that is the Stoic version that got into Christianity. It starts by saying, God, give me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. Serenity to accept. That is the heart of everything. That is really everything. Because what you're saying is that Brahma is what it is. It just is what it is. And you just accept it as a starting point. So it's like, Naneshwar talks about it beautifully. It's like, it's like the sun. And when you're standing in the sun, when you are the sun and you've completely accepted, this is like full acceptance of nature. There is nothing to fight against here. You've completely accepted nature. The courage to change things, you can. It's simply the light going out. Okay, simply the light going out. And wisdom to know the difference is distinguishing between what is just peripheral things, which are not really, which don't really matter, and this core part of just saying yes. In some ways, it's very simple. It's saying yes to existence. It is saying yes to God, saying yes to Brahma. And moment you do that, that is really the heart of it. Because moment you say yes to that, you are there. It's the same thing of saying, you love God. There is love for God in your heart. And when you have that, all your expression is going to flow from that. There is no dissonance there, because you are acting not from some peripheral things which can contradict one another, but from that universal principle. So it's all about saying yes to Brahma, letting your core live there and act from there. And then it is in some, it's that, I think it's that simple. That's all it is. Everything else is a way of getting there. You can say, look, you have these thoughts, and you have these emotions, and you have these actions, and that's our world. And it is very easy to get attached. And those are necessary things. We have to, those are vibhutis. Okay, think about it as like your own manifestations. Your life is the manifestation of who you are. But if you get attached to the manifestations and forget who you are, even if it was your own idea that you came up with 2 minutes ago, okay, or the actions that you've been doing, habits you've been holding for past 20 years, those are manifestation, those are forms. It's not your function. So in that sense, if you want to see a take on Gita, which is far more accessible in the Western context, look at Louis Sullivan, because he's influenced by transcendentalist. He's a transcendentalist. And the idea of form and function is exactly this. Say, just focus on your function and let forms follow function. Give up dead forms, because if you get attached to dead forms, you kill the function. It has to flow inside out, and everything outside is not happening on a one-time basis. It is being continuously renewed. That is the nature of life. And you're going against nature of life if you take a form and hold on to it, because you're not living anymore. You're saying, I will take the product of my life, and you're forgetting. You're saying, I'll let go of my life. I'll just take the product of my life. then you're not living. So it's simply, so, and again, that's a beautiful way of capturing it. And so I would very much recommend Louis Sullivan to anybody who is not familiar with it. So people who are familiar with it, if you would like to make any comment about the commonalities, because there are many people here who have gone through Louis Sullivan, what I'm telling you is that that's the most accessible form of Gita out there. That if you want from a Western context to get that, and he will go across all the levels. You know, he has his own way of dealing with thoughts, emotions, actions, individual and relationship with other people, physical manifestations. He has this entire way of doing that. So I would recommend that as a supplement to understanding Gita. So I'm going to go to Ambika, but anybody who has comments on what similarities that you see between Louis Sullivan and Bhagavad Gita is, you know, I'm inviting you to comment. Ambika, go ahead.
This I bought in Assisi. It's in Italian, the Serenity Prayer. And I have one copy that is framed. And this also, it is also in Italian and it hangs here. So I just wanted to share this with you. It's just so beautiful. And you should all visit Assisi sometime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Joe.
Yeah, I think Louis Sullivan actually is the most practical way of understanding the Gita. I think Thoreau is pretty good as well in thinking about Walden. I see like what that idea of understanding a self and not necessarily the society kind of influencing the way you think about the world. That's very powerful, and becoming one with nature. But what Louis Sullivan understands is how to transform nature. That's something a little bit different. He understands the purpose of the forms that he's creating, and understands the not only the purpose of, well, obviously the function of the forms he's creating, but he understands it by understanding how nature functions, not necessarily how society functions. And that distinction is huge when you're talking about your creation for architecture. I mean, we've kind of seen this, is that you see this, if the forms are shaping your thoughts and how you're creating something, you're only going to create something that has already been created, and it's not necessarily going to serve people. And if you think about it, how your personal interactions should actually be very similar, right? It shouldn't be necessarily how the rest of the world's telling you how to interact with people. It's how your internal nature, your center, how you feel to see the God in everyone else, to have that, to understand the universal principle, to understand Brahma. And I see that in Louis Sullivan, and you can see it in his actual way he develops in his work. And he also has a core set of values as well. That's what he's teaching in kindergarten chats. He's teaching values and understanding, you know, what's inside, what cannot be taught in the classroom, and what is actually, what architecture really, really means. We could actually even revisit Louis Sullivan. I mean, it would be really, it'd be interesting going through that a second time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I want to point out a couple of things. One is this nature as a foundation is a very deep point in the Transcendentalist. It is very deep point in Gita. It is by embracing what is and then looking at that. Like, for example, when we're talking about even the concepts of justice and punishment, we're always saying what is natural in human interaction. And that's where you're going from. So it is saying that do not accept what people are doing to each other just because that's how people are acting with each other. Just go a little bit deeper, say namaste, say, okay, my God in me greets God in you. How should, like, there is this very famous quote of a king, Indian king, that was defeated by Alexander. And Alexander, to his credit, asks him, how should I treat you after you defeated him? And he says, treat me as a one king should treat another. And he does. He becomes an ally, and that, but see, that's what it is. Like, you're saying, you're going to the root and you're saying, how should it be? What is the right function here? And you are designing from that. And on the interaction of people, I would like to talk more about that, because that, that namaste principle is so fundamental. And what happens is that even at the piecemeal level, you keep that in mind when you're talking to a person, suddenly you will find your interaction with them dramatically change, because what you're focused on changes. It is the concept of authentic relating that Carl Rogers talks about. It is the concept of I, thou that Buber talks about. They are all based on this same idea. So next up is going to be Evanique.
Yeah, I think Louis Sullivan is a great way, but I think Ayn Rand actually expresses this through fiction really well. The concepts of Louis Sullivan, which inadvertently go back to the Gita. And the thing I was thinking of is the self versus the inverted self, right? And in the character in Fountainhead, I was thinking of Rourke and Keating, right? So Rourke is the self, and that he works for the sake of enjoying his work, and he's working in a sense. His work is bringing him to the center. And when you were talking about nature, I was thinking of one of the parts where Rourke has a stick, right? And I think he's talking to Keating, and he says, "I can bend this stick and make it do what I want it to do." So he's taking nature in a sense, he's working to make it do what he wants it to do. And I think that's the self, right? And I had a problem, I had a problem with working in the beginning. I thought he was arrogant, but I hate to say it, but I've come over. But I think he's I kind of think he's like the Louis Sullivan of the whole thing, is that he's doing his architecture for himself, and that he is going for his center. And it's not in like it is selfish, but it's a good thing, because one of the things is that when you work, when you're living, when you're being selfish, and I say that in quotes because it's not what people mean, it's like he's doing what is good for him and his core and his being, and anything else that doesn't go along with that, he just doesn't do it. And it may seem to harm himself, or it may seem detrimental to himself, but at the end, he's staying true to who he is. And that's his whole point, is that he really doesn't care about the outside successes. He doesn't care about the periphery. Like, he doesn't care about what people think. He's not going to go against who he is. And I think that's one of the key things in the Gita, is that when you react to what's happening in the periphery, you're going against who you are. And I think that's the thing that we have to look at. Like, is this actually going to bring me closer to who I am? So I thought that was one thing. And you can see the opposites, right? In Rand's work. Like, Tui is this guy that is just polar opposite. Like he just wants to control everybody and everything. And in the Gita, in a sense, it's like letting go of that control. Like you can't control other people.
Let me do one thing. There are
Yeah.
many people who may not be familiar with Fountainhead.
True.
So let me try to summarize it.
Yeah, please.
The fundamental theme of Fountainhead is the distinction between what Ayn Rand calls first-handers and second-handers. And that actually captures this issue beautifully. First-hander means that you authentically relate with nature, with your life, and with your work. So you are in the existence, you are in the Brahma, you are in the nature, and you try to relate to nature, figure out what you should be doing on your own, using everything you possibly can, and then do that. So actually, it was quite astonishing. A friend of mine who is not that familiar with either Ayn Rand or Bhagavad Gita, I told him that I was doing something on Bhagavad Gita. They said, oh, I was reading Fountainhead, and that Howard Rock guy, that is like Karma Yoga. So because he's focused on doing what he thinks he should do. But I digress. So it's the idea of first-hander means you authentically figure out at the core, focus on the core of your being, focus on the nature and say, what should I do? And you do it. What is the opposite of that? The opposite of that is in the character of Peter Keating, that is called a second-hander. What does second-hander mean? Is that they actually are borrowing everything from people around them. They don't create the ideas. They just take the thoughts which are around them. They don't choose their course of action. They ask around, okay, what should I be doing? What do people think I should be doing? What will get me more prestige what will impress people more? Their emotions are mostly about kind of combination of envy, fear, because they're trying to adjust themselves to other people as a fundamental mode of being. So that means their entire core is being pushed. It's like the periphery is driving towards their center. And there is no I. There is no authentic relating to their own life. All they are saying is what will impress whom? And that's what I have to tell you the story. My niece, when she was in high school, I asked her, what do you think of high school? She says, I don't like it. She says, why don't you like it? So she says, it's because everybody is trying to impress everybody else. And the odd thing is that none of them actually care. So it's like mirrors trying to reflect each other with no light. And but that's what second-hander is like. There is no light. And they actually capture light of people who were first-handers at some time. And they grab onto the forms. There is no function. There's only forms. And forms are war, like Leonardo said, those that would deck themselves in the works of others will not allow me dignity of mind. Where people just want to put the thoughts, their actions on them, which are not theirs, they're just wearing them in order to impress other people. And they do not even see a person who is genuine creator, genuine, authentic human being, because that doesn't actually register. See, you need to have some similarity in order to recognize the other person. Like they don't even see that there can be such a thing. So that's what it is. Thank you. Thank you, Avanik. All right. So I'm ready to wrap up. Let's see. Anybody else has any final thoughts before we wrap up? I have to tell you Tomorrow I'm doing a meetup on the death and resurrection of Christ. I'm calling it Agony and Ecstasy. I gave a short preview. I'll give a very tiny preview. If you want to understand Christianity, you have to understand the cross. If you don't understand the cross, you don't understand anything about Christianity. And the cross is the combination of the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It is that which gives you eternal life. That is life according to the eternal, so according to the Brahma. What does it mean to live like that? And how do you do that? That's what it gives you. But the price you have to pay is that you have to eat the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil responsibly. Eat, but eat responsibly. And then you have to take on that responsibility for everything that holds you down. Your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, take full responsibility for that in order to achieve that. And that's what we're going to see. It's going to be at 4:30 tomorrow on Saturday tomorrow. And then on Sunday, Mark Stallman will be back for his last presentation in this series. It's going to be on 3 spheres, a theme that he has talked about at length, but he's going to give a completely new spin on that. So don't miss either of them. Looking forward to seeing you soon. And thank you, everybody. These Gita meetups have been so far beyond my expectations. Not only Yogeshwar is doing so amazingly well, but it is, all the participants. I really love all your comments today. I think that's the only way to learn like this, where everybody is coming and seeing, it's like Jyoti made some comments, of connecting it to, we have to connect these things to our lives so we can see the Vibhutis operating
Right.
in our lives. Go ahead, Joe. You were saying something.
No, I was gonna just say, I was just thinking out loud. I'm sorry.
Okay. You think out aloud very much, very loud.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think I was off mute. I thought it was, so I was just like, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
You were actually making a really good point.
Yes. No. Thank you. All right. So tomorrow is going to be actually quite amazing. I've been working on it quite a bit. I'm trying to figure it out, and would really appreciate any comments. So Brian, will you be able to make it tomorrow? You're on mute.
I'm signed up. I plan on making it.
Excellent. Okay. All right. See you folks tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
What time is it tomorrow?
Bye.
4:30.
Thank you.
4:30 Eastern time.
Oh,
Bye,
okay.
everybody.